First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, appreciate you joining us. We live stream here every weekday starting at 1 p.m. Pacific. We're on our website, our apps, and on YouTube and Facebook as well, so lots of places to find us and the segments after we do them. Today, we're talking about a study from OHSU that in part found that consistent walking, actually helped increase brain health. And we're going to get to the specifics of that and explain how that all happened. And to do so, joining us right now, we have Dr. Raina Croff from OHSU. And Doctor, thank you very much, for joining us. I saw this study come out and realized, just how important this could be to understand this for so many people, and that's why we wanted to have this discussion today. So I think maybe to start off, could you tell us about, what led to doing this study?
Well, thanks for having me, Greg. I'm really excited to talk about the SHARP study. So SHARP stands for Sharing History Through Active Reminiscence and Photo Imagery, and it's a mouthful, so we just call it SHARP. And really what got me started in designing this study and working, of course, with my wonderful staff to make it a reality is that we know that Black Americans are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's disease as other Americans. And a large part of that is because of ongoing and systemic inequities. And I've also found that in a lot of talks or community talks to African American audiences, we start off with these numbers that African Americans are the most likely for this, or we have the highest rate of this. And I found that messaging really isn't very inspiring. And so we want to create a walking program that is culturally celebratory, where we are really centering the vitality and richness of local Black Portland culture. And kind of behind the scenes are all the activities that are good for brain health. So we created a walking program where people walk 3 times a week in groups of 3s in Portland's historically Black neighborhoods. And they use an app that is preloaded with 72 walking routes. And on these walking routes, these are 1 mile, there are historical images that pop up. And these images are just rich and beautiful images of restaurants, of businesses, of our parks, of our sports teams, and people talk about them. And so they're walking and they're talking as they're doing these things that are good for their brain health.
Wow, so that's so many different things all going into one there, but so increasing that social aspect of having somebody else with you, but then also, so I'm assuming these are the pictures that would pop up have to do with the neighborhood or the walks that they're specifically on, or something that would spur a conversation?
Yes, let me give you an example of some of the places that we're featuring in the walks. So we have an image of Joe's Place on Alberta. We have an image of the Talking Drum store, or an old flyer from that store. That's also on Alberta. We have a picture of Terrell Brandon standing in front of the Terrell Brandon Barbershop, Peninsula Park Pool, just sitting on the front steps with Grandpa or gardening with Grandma. We have the Unthanked Park dedication in 1969. So we have a plethora of images that represent local life, Black culture in Portland.
Well, and for the people, the participants in the study, so just to ask to kind of quantify that, did they have some amount of cognitive issues going on already, or is that unrelated to how the study worked out?
Yeah, let me describe this a little bit more. So people walk 3 times a week for 6 months. And these triads, these groups of 3, they consist of people who are healthy, who do not have memory problems, but also people who have mild cognitive impairment, or which is also known as mild memory loss. And they walk together 3 times a week. And really, it's the consistency of having something to look forward to, a structured time and place and setting to go to facilitate you to continually do these brain healthy behaviors. And when I say brain healthy behaviors in this study, I'm specifically talking about walking and being socially engaged. And these images that pop up as people walk on these routes, these are images that prompt a conversational reminiscence. And so they have a purpose. They have something to talk about that they care about as they're going through what is essentially the gentrified, historically Black neighborhoods of Portland.
And in that combination there, so going through these gentrified areas and then seeing these images of what was there, or something that would spur that conversation. I think you said cultural reminiscence of spurring that had a direct effect on their brain health and their cognitive functions.
Yes, let me talk about the outcomes. So
Right.
we found that that's what you were looking for, right? So
Right.
what we
Yeah.
found
Yeah.
was that mood improved both right after people completed a walk, but also cumulatively over the course of walking for 6 months. And that's really important because we know that depression and isolation, those increase your risk factor for developing cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease. And we found that blood pressure decreased for 78%. We also found that this was, I think, the most exciting find is, which is the title, that you've got underneath here, is that increased brain health. And so we did a Montreal cognitive assessment before they started walking, and we did one after they were walking for 6 months. And this is just it's not a comprehensive, cognitive battery, but it is an assessment that can give us an idea into brain function. And what we found was that overall, 67% of our sample had maintained or improved their brain function according to this assessment, and particularly among those who had mild cognitive impairment or who had mild memory loss. And so it was a small sample, but they had about 75% of that sample had maintained or improved their cognitive assessment score, which we can relate to brain function. So yes, walking, being outside, doing this consistently, feeling like you have a purpose and something to look forward to, it's good for brain health.
Wow. I mean, that's such an amazing study to have that, that be the results too, to find this out. So now that you've done it, as you mentioned, it was a limited study for this. Are there any plans to expand upon this or to bring this to maybe some other organizations or groups?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, it's important to note that what is good for these older Black adults in this study is good for everybody. Walking, being outside, being social, making sure you have that appointment so that your health care, you're making an appointment with yourself and with others to do these healthy behaviors, right? And so this is a scalable program. It's adaptable to other communities, and so we're experimenting with that. So last year in Seattle, we had 32 walkers who walked for 1 month. We're creating walks for Oakland, and we're getting interest from actually many places across the nation on how to do this. So ultimately, our goal is to develop a manual and say, here, if you'd like to do this, this is exactly how you can do this in your own community.
And you mentioned specifically, some of the issues at the top of the show. You're talking about some of these studies that show, for Black Americans, there's these issues, there's these things. And so this specifically with this study, is this something, I guess, to understand for these other areas in the country too? Is this looking at areas that maybe have been gentrified specifically to help them out and create imagery like this?
Yes, yes. So in Seattle, we are creating walks in the gentrified area of the Central District. And in Oakland, we're looking at West Oakland. And so, yeah, this is a great way to center brain health without centering memory loss and Alzheimer's disease. And it's important to know, that African Americans are disproportionately likely to develop Alzheimer's disease, but that doesn't always have to be the central and driving message. We can have a message about how can you engage in activities that are good for your brain and good for healthy aging, that center on the richness and vitality of Black culture, whether it's in an area that was gentrified and celebrating the culture that remains, and or whether it's just in general, let's focus on Black culture and history. And be together.
Oh, go ahead. Continue.
And to be together in community doing that.
Yeah, and to that extent, actually talking about that community idea of it, have you followed up with some of the people that were in this study since then, and have they continued to do these walks and engage each other socially like that?
Well, what's been so lovely for me about this study is, well, one, I'm from Portland, so this really means a lot to me, and this is my hometown community. But we have walkers who are coming back for different iterations of this study. Right now, we have a study that we're wrapping up where it is dementia family caregivers walking with people who have mild cognitive impairment or who have early stage dementia. And we've had other iterations where we added sleep sensor, and we added an actigraphy watch, so like an activity tracker. And people are coming back to re-engage in the different iterations that we've had of this walking program so far. So, and the fact that we've had very high retention, we had 86% retention rate, and 74%, we had 2 cohorts. That is pretty high for a 6-month study where we're asking people to do something 3 times a week. So we know that we've hit on something right and good that participants appreciate.
Right. Yeah. That they're coming back for this. I mean, obviously, yeah. This is definitely a positive result from that. And I think, for you personally, you mentioned that you are from Portland, grew up here. This is your community. This is your area. How does it feel for you to be able to, be one of these lead researchers, bringing this to people and actually seeing this positive result in the community?
I love it. I feel like I really poured my heart and soul into this project. And it's also it's been a mechanism for me to also bring in scholars of color to be part of the research process and to introduce young scholars of color to Alzheimer's disease research and to be part of the study. And for me, I have lived through the gentrification. I've seen North and Northeast Portland change. I've seen the demographics change. And it's not that our participants were expecting that things stay the same. It's just a matter of being a part of that story and having the history and community, the Black history and community that was so central to that area, that it's not forgotten, that it is remembered, and it's part of the continuing story. So it really means a lot to me to be able to do a study where people can share their stories of what used to be there, and they can do that together with other people who understand exactly how they feel when it comes to the changes in Portland.
Absolutely. To that extent, too, as far as all of these images and the pictures that you got, how did you source them? How were you able to get all of these?
Oh, that was one of my favorite parts of this project. I used to be an archaeologist, and so the idea of digging through the archives was really exciting for me. And I'm just very visually oriented, and I was able to engage students in this process. So we went to the Oregon Historical Society. We went to the Bonneville Power Administration archives. My mom worked there for like 30 years. That was a wonderful, just local connection. People were bringing in their private photos. We went to the PSU special collections with the Rutherford collection and the Abel Gordley collection. So it's just been a real fun way to kind of bring together all these various images that are in different places.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a whole other side of it too. That's absolutely fascinating that I would love to see. Hopefully those can be made public at some point too, just so that everybody can kind of engage in that. That's really amazing. So going from here, you mentioned just to kind of bring this to where it is. So you're sending this to other cities. You mentioned you're going to be trying this out. Any plans on future iterations of this in Portland?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned a little bit more about the archives, because I forgot to mention really what the draw to this study was the recording of these conversational reminiscence sessions as they walk. And so what we're doing is we're creating an oral history, a digital archive that will be available to the public. And then people are able to use these recorded histories as they see fit, maybe for education, who knows, maybe to develop a play around awareness to gentrification and aging and caregiving and Alzheimer's disease. So there's a lot of things we can do with the narratives that we're collecting. And, our participants have entrusted us with these just really valuable and personal stories. And that's an honor we definitely do not take lightly. So we're in a very careful process of making sure we ensure the integrity of these stories and just making sure that we're doing due justice in processing them before we send them out to the public.
That is so extremely valuable. Yeah, to be able to get the actual stories from people walking around those neighborhoods and sharing their thoughts on that. Amazing. Well, I mean, there's so many good things came out of this study that you have. It's just really incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I do want to say that if people are interested in participating in aging or Alzheimer's research, we do have an online registry. It's called ACT Now, ACTNOW at OHSU.edu. And in particular for African Americans, we have the African American Dementia and Aging Project. And this is a longitudinal study that looks at lifestyle factors over the course of a lifetime to see what may influence the development of cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease.
Fantastic. Well, Doctor, thank you very much, for joining us here today. Really appreciate you being on here to share the study and the results and, all the positivity that's coming out of that as well. And thank you. Thank you for joining us here on Fox 12 Now.
Thank you so much. And I'm so grateful for all the funders. May I say that really quickly?
Oh, yeah, please, by all means.
Okay. Yeah. Because, we cannot do research without funders. So the Alzheimer's Association, the Centers for Disease Control and Preventive Medicine, the National Institute on Aging, and the Oregon Roybal Centers for Translational Research. So we've just had a lot of support for this SHARP study, and hopefully we will have some more. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure. Well, Doctor, thank you very much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too. And for everybody watching, again, this is Fox 12 Now, so we're live streaming here every weekday. We're going to end this for now. We'll be back here in just a few, though, to talk about some of the upcoming weather events going on over this weekend. Is the snow going to continue? Did you get some snow? We're going to talk to the National Weather Service about that. So again, that'll be here at 1:30 p.m., so a little less than 15 minutes. We'll be back live on whatever platform you're on. I do suggest downloading the app, though. That's always a great way to follow along with everything that we're doing. So the Fox 12 Oregon app, whether it's on your phone or your television, Fire Stick, your Apple TV, your Roku, we're on all those. Great way to be able to download it, watch live, and watch all the segments afterward. But I'll sign off for right now. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.